Welcome to Headhunterka podcast. My guest today is James Aleksandrowicz. James is a tax partner from one of the leading Big 4 firms based in London. Welcome, James.
Thanks, Izabela. Good to be here.
Thank you very much. It's great to see you, and it's great to see you eventually in Brighton.
Finally.
Finally, indeed. Okay, let's actually start at the very beginning, because nobody grows up dreaming, I'm going to be a tax partner in Big 4 in London one day, unless it was you. So please tell me, how did it actually start? Who did you want to be when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, it was, if someone asked me what I wanted to do, I think I went through various things. It was police officer, then it was fighter pilot, and then sort of settled on accountant for, I don't really know, whatever reason it was. I remember actually speaking to someone, my economics teacher in high school, and I saw these advertisements come online for what they call cadetships in Australia, which is like an apprenticeship, but for accounting jobs. And so I asked her, I said, have you heard of this before? Do we know anyone who's worked at the Big 4 from my school? And she was like, I don't think so. I think maybe someone a few years ago, but I don't think anyone's gone down that path. But yeah, ended up getting a cadetship at a mid-tier firm and then moved into one of the Big 4 firms as well while I was studying at the same time.
Great. Obviously, I will ask a lot of questions how it all happened. But before that, if you met someone, and I'm sure you do, people who do not work in the tax field or in finance, how would you introduce yourself then? If they don't know anything about tax.
Do you want the tax or the tax technology bit, or how do you want that?
Well, James, what is your profession then?
Well, I would say I'm a tax technologist. That's how I've described myself for a while. My mum went through a phase of saying it's something with tax and computers, which is probably about right as well. But yeah, I would say I'm a tax technologist. So I'm tax trained and qualified. I'm an accountant qualified, but I focus on tax technology and technology for tax processes at its core.
Amazing. Great. So now from a different angle, in the professional tax world, when you meet some of your tax peers, what would be the proper introduction of your profession right
Probably
now?
the same, to be honest. I think as more and more understanding of what a tax technologist is and what they do and the importance of technology in tax has increased, I think there's been a greater awareness of it. So I would still introduce myself as a tax technologist and a problem solver at heart, really.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you, James. I would like to talk now about Australia, where you come from. Very excited to talk about this, by the way. So I've got a lot of questions. Never been, but I would like to learn quite a lot. But what I know, what I've heard, that Australians are quite energetic, very direct, and they've got specifically different dry sense of humor. Would you agree with this at all?
I would. And it was actually one of the things, when I moved over here, I do think Australia, the UK, there's so much similarity culturally, but there's actually a lot of differences as well. And I hadn't appreciated just how different some of the cultural aspects are. And then, of course, you've got the slang, which took me some time to get used to.
Exactly. I'm going to talk about different cultures as well. But before that, I would like to ask you a question, which is very interesting and hopefully it's funny, because I also have heard you Australians actually use slang in different professional settings. Has it happened to you when you were actually this kind of room full of people, different company stakeholders, and you actually use one of the slangs from Australia?
I mean, it really is part of the standard Australian, I guess, conversation, even in the corporate world. Like back in the old days when you had a client file, you had a tab that was Coro, and that would be how you'd call it. It's Coro, correspondence Coro. There was a time, actually, it was when I first moved over, and I was in a meeting room with a bunch of different people. We had tax people, IT, project managers, and so on. And we wrapped up early, and it was about 4 o'clock or something. And I just, off the cuff, I just said, that's like, great, now we can finish early for the Arvo. we can have an early mark. And one of my boss, who was Australian, just looked at me, because everyone else was looking at me as if I'd just spoken French. And she turned to me and said, no one else in this room has understood that. And so I had to explain an early mark is basically like you are finishing early. So like an early mark from school is if you finished up at 2:30 instead of 3. And AVA, of course, is short for afternoon.
Amazing. This is really so funny. Great. I would be very confused too.
There's always these little things every now and again. I've grown out of it now, having been here for 10 years. But at the time early on, it was, just little things I thought, I don't understand why no one understands.
Brilliant. This is great. So let's start again from the point when you were still in Australia, because you made this move, not straight away to the UK. There was something in between. You actually moved from Australia to Europe, to Budapest.
Mm-hmm.
How did it happen?
Yeah, well, so I guess probably going back a little bit further. So I was working as a tax accountant and doing corporate tax, and sort of got qualified, and almost from the day I qualified, decided that I don't think frontline tax work, if you will, was for me anymore. And I went through a mini existential crisis, thought about becoming a mechanic, didn't know what I wanted to do, and then had stumbled across a role that was, or one of my friends dropped me a note about a role, which was tax and technology. And I thought, well, I'm kind of the technology super user for some of the systems that we use internally. Maybe that's a good fit for me. But I went into this thinking, this is my segue out of tax. This is I'll do 3 years and then I'm done and I'll go do something else. And I thought, maybe that's project management, maybe that's wider finance, I don't know. But anyway, I landed at a tax technology company, or a technology company that did tax software, and just found the niche and sort of slipped into it. And so it was for that company there. I'd worked for a couple of years, and the opportunity came up for a secondment to Budapest in Hungary, because the client I was working with was rolling out the software across Central Eastern Europe. And so it was meant to be 4, did 6 months there. And that was a sort of a defining moment in my career in terms of thinking, well, I don't think I'm done with Europe yet. Mm-hmm. And so after that, I thought, well, time to move on to London.
Right. You even pronounce Budapest correctly, like Hungarians would do, because I work with quite a lot of Hungarian companies as well, so I've learned as well. That's brilliant. So what do you remember from Budapest days when you actually spent some time there? What is the biggest kind of memory from that time?
I genuinely loved my time in Budapest. It's my favourite city in Europe. I probably like it more than London, if I'm honest.
Okay.
As a city, in terms of just what it offers, it's incredibly friendly people, great food, great weather all year round. You have to get used to the cold, but that's part of the charm as well. I think Budapest is one of those cities, and Hungary a country really, where you can enjoy it all year round. This is not a go there in summer or go there in winter. Go any month, any year.
And James doesn't work for the tourist agency, by the way.
No, I absolutely do not. But it was just every part of my 6 months there was an experience, and working with people. And it's one of the biggest things I really enjoyed about that whole secondment was that I moved around across other countries as well. And it awakened my senses to travelling, firstly, but actually travelling and mingling with people who are locals. And so I got to experience cities across Europe where locals would take you to where they go to eat, where they go to drink. And that was a really different experience to doing a sort of, under 30s tour or something.
Amazing. That sounds great. So after Budapest, you returned to Sydney.
Yeah, not for long, 3 months.
Not for long indeed. Tell us more about the next move.
Yeah, so I did, I guess, what a lot of Australians tend to do and think, well, I'll get the 2-year visa. We'll do 2 years in London. So my now wife and I moved over, and the intention was very much do 2 years and then we'll head home. And then for those who have moved countries or relocated, 6 months is not long enough. A year is not long enough. I actually remember thinking to myself, the year had come up and I thought, I've only just stopped arguing with my electricity provider about what my meter is. and I've got 11 months to go. Like I feel like I've only just started to settle. It wasn't long enough. And so ended up extending our time here. But we always had it in our head that we were going back home.
Okay.
That was always the plan, to go back home. But it was actually COVID that changed that for us.
Right.
During COVID, Australia locked down, everywhere locked down, but it became very difficult to be able to visit Australia and go home.
Yeah.
And it was only when you were kind of forced into a situation where it's you can't go back and visit that we got a sense of actually we really like it here and we really like our lives here. And so that changed it for us.
And I have to ask this because I ask everyone who's made a move like that, what was the actual culture shock, if there was any, coming just from, obviously not immediately from Budapest, but from Australia to the UK? Because the same language, really.
Yeah.
Similar sense of humor, I would guess. Correct me if I'm wrong. Commonwealth. So what was so different? What did you feel? What was different?
I'd say directness. Australians tend to be more direct in most interactions.
That's why we get on so well.
Must be. That must be it. That's the only reason. So that's probably a big thing. Coffee culture, that's probably a longer story.
That's another question. Please don't jump over.
I don't know if there's much more to say. The coffee's just better in Australia. And I don't drink tea, so...
Yes, I was going to ask about coffee. I absolutely love coffee. And I think there's a culture now, even in the UK, where everybody just loves coffee. But I've heard, again, that Australians are exceptionally, particular about the quality of the coffee. So did London actually meet the standards or not?
No.
Right. Okay. Very good. So, maybe this is something to mention to those who are actually running those businesses. Maybe they should do something about it. Some improvement is required.
I don't know what it is. If it's the milk, the water, the beans, don't know.
Right.
There's just something there. And it's an ongoing joke with some of my friends, actually, that if we go somewhere and you can order a large flat white. So a large flat white is a normal thing that you can order in Australia, small, medium, large, what have you. Whereas here, if you say, can I get a large flat white, someone looks at you like you're insane. So, if we go somewhere, which is rare, and we find something that you can order a large flat white, it's like, okay.
Right. Okay.
Maybe this will be good coffee.
Maybe Brighton is the place for you to try coffee, because this is really a great city for coffee. I can recommend a few places. Not now. Right. Okay, great. So let's actually talk about the career itself again, because you are now a Big4 partner, leading a tax technology practice. That is, by any definition, a remarkable place to have arrived. So congratulations. But I want to talk about something you've been open about, and I really respect you for this, because this is something what happened in between. I'm talking about this promotion, which didn't arrive exactly as you wished for. It was when you were going through director panel, from this what I remember. Yeah,
so it was when I was looking to move back into the Big4. After a stint in industry.
Yes.
And was going through the director process, so business case, panels and everything else. And I did not pass the panel. I think flunked it is probably the more accurate description. And there is no sort of redo, there's no reassessment. It's quite a binary decision, generally speaking, around you've either passed it or you failed it, and I did not pass it. And so there was a bit of an introspection moment there as to what to do. And the answer was that you can join as a senior manager, but there's no director role for you at the time. And so I did a lot of thinking around that, and decided to take the senior manager role. And at the time, I mean, anyone who's gone through an interview to try to secure either a promotion or a step up or whatever that looks like, anyone who's not managed to get that really tends to struggle with that mindset. And no matter how okay you are taking it, there's always something that perhaps niggles at the back of your mind. Having gone through it, and with the hypocrisy of that goes with it, I do actually realise it was the right thing. Your role is different as a director to a senior manager. Your expectations are different. You're moderated differently. And you're compared against people who have an established network, an established client base, and know how the firm operates.
Sure.
And that was the feedback I got from the panel as well, which was very useful, and really helped me structure, I guess, how I approach things going forward. But yeah, I have no regrets over that decision, even if it was tough at the time.
Great, great. I want to stay with this for a moment, actually, because vulnerability at Big4 is not something we talk about a lot or at all, especially on a senior level. The culture in professional services can feel very performative. Everyone is presenting their best, I imagine. Nobody's admitting doubt or difficulty. And you were in that situation where you had to pull yourself together and just make this decision what to do next, as you've mentioned. What emotions did you actually feel at the time, and what was the mission, you think, for you when you decided to stay and actually to grow to that role?
I guess it went through a wave of different emotions. At first, sort of frustrated with myself, quite disappointed in myself as well, because you think like I should have done better. I should have known better. I should have done better. But then once I started and just got into it, I found I was in a better place, because it was just get your feet under the table, do what you've been brought in to do what I know I can do, and do it well. And then things generally start to fall in place around that. And I'm not saying it was easy. I'm not saying there wasn't challenges along the way or anything along those lines. But it's sort of one of the things I often say to people that I've coached or who've worked with me is, and when they're going for that next step or that promotion, whatever that looks like, is not to make every day when you wake up all about doing something in service of that promotion, because actually the thing that gets you there is doing what you do really well. And if you start to distract yourself either mentally or through the actions and your day-to-day life and what you work on with just in service of, I must prove I'm ready for senior manager, I must prove I'm ready for director, I must prove I'm ready to be a partner, then that will work against you, and you're not doing the things that actually make you good at your job, which is what will ultimately help you progress. And so I had to just keep telling myself that as well, and just focus on delivering things well, understanding the market, building my brand and my own internal network, because the internal network in any professional services environment is as important, if not more important, than your external brand as well.
Mm-hmm. That's great, because handling a moment like that with real emotional intelligence is managing disappointment and seeking out honest feedback and responding with professionalism rather than resentment. That's, to me, is the true mark of a thoughtful and resilient leader like you.
Can't honestly say. There's probably a bit of resentment at the start somewhere. And I wouldn't say the most emotionally intelligent person. I'm sure there were waivers throughout, but, it all ended well, I guess is the main thing.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, so you see a lot of talented people at different stages of the Big4 journey, and I know this is something you feel strongly about. So what do candidates consistently get wrong about what is actually takes them to move to the next level, especially when we talk about senior manager and director? I would like you to talk maybe more about the difference between those levels, because people sometimes are very confused or maybe not aware what is expected from them, what is the real difference, because those levels are very close to each other, but they actually demand different skill sets probably. Is it something you can...
Yeah, and probably the caveat that goes with that is that different firms, different environments will be a little bit different in terms of role expectations and so on. And this is not necessarily the nailed on exact answer for this, because there are a lot of variations across what those roles involve. But at least in the the tax technology space, or from my perspective and my experience, a senior manager is someone who is, you are a senior manager. You are managing a project. You are owning a project end to end. It is your project. Manage the resources, manage the timeline, manage the budget. You are in control. So your focus is inherently on delivery, even if you are doing some bits around the edges in terms of business development, sales, and whatnot. As a director, most frequently your role shifts to you should be market making, and so you. I guess I've said it flippantly before, but if I have to jump into a system now, then that is going to be a problem. Something's gone wrong, and I'm probably not the best person to go and fix it anymore. Which actually, as part of making that transition from senior manager to director, that was a bit of a shock as well, because you're, as someone who I mentioned earlier, like a problem solver, like I get a thrill out of solving problems like that and putting tech in to address those problems. And so when your intrinsic perception of your own value or your own worth or what you do well moves away from everything that you've been doing in your career to date to someone saying, well, how are you selling more? How are you generating a market? How are you building relationships? That's a big shift. And I had to go through a bit of a step phase, and I've had executive coaching at various different points, and that was one of the themes that we'd explored as well around how do I shift, if I think about myself as a problem solver, how do I shift the narrative to I'm still solving problems, but they're different problems.
Yeah.
But the big thing, and I still miss it, working in the technology and, that little dopamine hit you get when you've actually finally solved something that's been, nagging you for 5 hours, 6 hours, and you finally crack it. You miss that. But it's a different focus and it's a different expectation of role. And I think you asked about in the context of candidates potentially exploring what those different roles look like. Right. I think it's important that you find the role that works and aligns for you. And as I said, I'm not saying that director is only market facing, but there is a much greater market facing element to it.
There's a huge difference for sure. Okay, one more question around this topic, please. What would you say to those candidates who actually are looking for kind of a quick promotion by switching from one Big 4 firm to another, and they are hoping they're going to get one level up? Let's say someone's a manager only for 1 or 2 years and wants to join as a senior manager. What would be the message? It could be a quick one.
I don't know if I've got a quick message around it. And again, there are some great candidates who can do that and prove it.
So it's not about the number of years. It's more about how people actually perform during the assessment process, the interview process, if they can demonstrate they've got that skill. Yes?
I guess so. And I think the big thing is just no matter what role it is, if it's senior associate to manager, if it's manager to senior manager, whatever that step up looks like, be mindful of the expectations that are on you when you move into that role. And we've all been there. We've all worked on a project and been like, oh, I could have been the senior associate on that when I first started, or I could have been the manager on that. I'm doing a better job than this, but just be mindful of, are you crystal clear on the expectations? And frankly, I think that's a good question to ask in the, to explore, maybe not outwardly in the interview process, but actually just explore to understand, are you clear on what your metrics are? Are you clear what success looks like in that step up or the next role or whatever the focus area is? So just make sure you're clear on the move. And if it works out for you, fantastic, but just be clear on it.
This is a great answer. Thank you very much. I'm sure lots of people will actually benefit from this. Thank you. Now, switching slightly to different topic. Mm-hmm. I know you are a very big enthusiast of CrossFit and you really enjoy your fitness. So I would like to ask you more about that human outside of tax world where you are. So CrossFit, the gym, you've talked about these more than just fitness. Mm-hmm. So what does it do for you, especially when you are in this really big leadership position right now?
I discovered CrossFit in, when was it? 2022. I'd been running all through COVID. It's a thing that everyone did when everything shut down. It's easy to go out for a run. And so I got really into running. And I really enjoyed it. I used to love going for a longer run. And the thing I loved about it was that I just let my mind wander. So I would think about anything and everything, from home, work, money, travel, like you name it, I thought of it. And I just had the time to think to myself. When I eventually started to get a bit bored of running, I felt like I was plateauing, and I just wasn't getting the same buzz out of it anymore. I thought I'll try something different. Found there was a CrossFit gym, or box as it's called, down the road from me. So I'll give it a go. And then, yeah, 4 and a bit years later, I'm more into it now than I ever was.
Yeah, in a leadership position there as well.
No, absolutely not. There are some phenomenal people there, and
Right.
I am definitely not anywhere close to that. But I think that's the beauty of it. I think there's always a next challenge. Everyone's on their own journey. No matter if it's your first session or your 1,000th session, you will have your own challenge from it. But I think you could mention about mindset. Completely the opposite of running. I don't know how, I don't know why, I actually can't explain it. But the moment I cross the threshold into that class, I don't think about anything else aside from that class for the hour. And that has been something I value more and more over the last few years. Just the complete switch off from everything else. Because all you can do is count reps, survive, count down the seconds, minutes, whatever it may be. And just hold on for dear life. And that it's a different level of switch off compared to the running, which I now enjoy way more than the thinking about things completely.
Yeah, sure. That's great. I must say it really helps your mindset, doesn't it? Really. Brilliant. That's great. There's something else about James which I have found out. Not sure this is so much of the secret or not, but I know how much you actually enjoy and to watch Formula One. Tell us more about this passion.
Yeah, well, I don't know how many years I've been following Formula One for. Probably since I was a late teenager, I think. I don't really know how I got into it, if I'm honest. I just started watching, and I've pretty much watched it ever since. I love motorsport in general, but Formula One is the main sport I followed. I like to say I followed it before it became popular, before Drive to Survive came out. But yeah, I've been to a few races now in my time as well. I love motorsport in general. I've go-karted before. I've driven my own car on a track. I got quite into that when I was back home as well. And really, yeah, that if you want a way to burn money, start racing your own car at a racetrack. But yeah, I sort of I love driving. I love driving fast. I love the thrill of trying to get the perfect lap, because there is no such thing really, aside from a few people who've done it, arguably. But yeah, Formula One is just the main sport I watch, really.
Brilliant. So is there a driver or team philosophy that maps onto how you approach your own career?
Not particularly, if I'm honest. I probably, if I was to pick a team, it'd probably be McLaren as a team that resonates the most. But it's quite hard to explain. I support different drivers, or I like some drivers. I may not like others. But I support the sport. It's the sport that I find really interesting, and actually the blend of drivers with teams and the engineering and the precision that goes into it as well. I just find the whole thing quite fascinating.
Perhaps a bit of a drive to survive approach in real life, yes?
Possibly. Well, sometimes everyone has to go through that moment of you're either thriving or surviving, right? That's normal.
Yes, okay. Well, I must admit I don't know too much about Formula One. I have very kind of limited general knowledge. However, I invested in a book, and I'm not going to advertise this book. I'm not going to mention the title, but this is the book, which is the ultimate quiz book about Formula One. Let's check James' knowledge. So, random page.
We might have to cut this if this doesn't go well.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Team Spotlight, Aston Martin. Right, let's start from the first, what I can see. What team did the Aston Martin car company sponsor before the name was applied to the former Racing Point outfit by owner Lawrence Stroll?
They used to sponsor Red Bull. It was Red Bull Aston Martin, I think.
Let's check the answer. Red Bull Racing. Well done. I won't ask any more questions, but this is a
That was fun.
great.
Let's do more.
Would you like some more? Yes. Okay.
We can pick it up later.
Yes, we will. We will certainly. But this podcast is very much about also giving advice to others who are listening, who are watching, and again, going back to your career, which is exceptionally successful. So if you could go back to the day you actually landed in London, not yet knowing what lay ahead, and have one conversation with yourself, what would you say?
Oh, that is a hard question.
At least one.
Yeah. I think it would be, looking back, I would probably tell myself, don't just arrive here with the presumption that you're going home. If that makes any sense. Like in my mind, it was, when I landed, it was, well, it's 2 years from today. So 2 years from today, I'll be at the airport and I'll be packing my suitcase and flying home.
Right. Would you do it again? That's the question, really.
The move over?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was the right
It was
way
absolutely
to
the
do
right decision.
everything.
Yeah. But it's just, when that mindset of, I will eventually go back to Sydney, or I will very soon be going back to Sydney, changes the way you approach being, or rather, it could change the way I did or thought about certain things in London. So if I was to go back with hindsight to say, what would I say to myself now? It's, don't just assume that you're here for 2 years. Like, embrace the experience and don't have a countdown on it.
How about advising the young, accountants who are considering now to actually enter the tax profession? Is there any particular advice you would like to give them when they're just starting and they're just entering this tax profession at this stage?
It's the same advice I was given however many years ago now, 18 years ago, and it still holds true today. Like, say yes to everything. If someone gives you the opportunity to work on something, say yes. If it's something you don't think you're going to like, say yes anyway, because you may like it. You may find out you like it. Secondly, you may work with someone who is going to open up new doors and new avenues for you. Don't go into it with this preconceived notion of, well, this is what I expect to get out of the job, or this is what I expect to be doing. Because again, if you lead your life like that at work, you are going to close off doors for yourself, and actually, you'll probably end up closing doors for other people as well. Like, if someone says, if you go up to someone and say, I'd like to bring you on board for this project, or it'd be great to get you involved in this, and they say, I don't really think that's what I want to spend my time on. On the one hand, it's good for people to think, where they want to go and whatnot, but equally, like, I don't think if you're starting out, your job is to say yes to everything. Back in my day, that was photocopying. I remember there was...
you cannot remember that.
I absolutely can. I remember I just moved teams. I was in a new team at the firm, and partner walked up to my desk and said, James, you got capacity? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. He's like, right, come with me. So I grabbed my pen and notebook. I'm excited. I'm like, here we go. I'm going to get thrown onto an interesting project, or we're going to jump on an interesting call. He slides open the door, and there's boxes, like probably 10 or 12 boxes of files. And he's like, I need 3 copies of these done over the next week. So if you can just work on that, that'd be great. I was never going to turn around and say, oh, sorry, I really think I should be doing more important client work.
Yes.
That's what had to be done. So you just get on with it and do it. And as ridiculous as that example is, and true, you do the little things well for someone, then you get on to something else that's a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then all of a sudden you've got experience, you've got skills, and you're able to bring those to whatever you do going forward. And I think anyone entering the workforce should not discount the soft skills that you build from doing whatever task it is, and getting more accomplished within the corporate world, the professional environment, liaising with clients, liaising with senior stakeholders. There's plenty of skills you get no matter what the task you're actually given is.
Okay, thank you. So what the future holds for actually tax function itself, tax transformation in general, just given all the AI and, live reporting, everything else, what do you think is going to happen next?
Well, if you want a crystal ball gaze, it'll be the
Yes.
death of the tax return, because
Yes.
a tax authority will just take your data straight out of your systems into theirs. It'll be all AI enabled, so you'll have AI reviewing and maybe calculating your taxes for you. It'll be then loaded up over and sent over to a tax authority. They'll use AI to analyse that, and then no one has a job and everyone just pays tax automatically. I don't think we necessarily get there.
No.
But I do think that's probably, if we look at things coming down the line across the globe around e-invoicing and so on, that is going to be the trend. Tax authorities will take on more data because they can. They will analyse the data better because they can. And then tax functions need to respond to that accordingly.
There will be still a lot of demand for people in tax profession, for sure. It's just in a different
It'll change.
capacity, different roles, different type of, obviously, responsibilities. But everybody should be really upskilling. Whatever happens, we are just in this kind of technology era. And you are in the best place to be, tax technology.
I think so. I think it's I think it's an exciting place to be.
It is. It is very
I think,
exciting.
and 15 years ago, these jobs were very, very niche.
Yeah.
Very,
It didn't exist, really.
Not really.
No, I remember there was, you're a tax person or you're IT person,
Yes.
not even technology, IT. And then they kind of started to marry both and to find someone who actually can do both. This is really a really great expertise to have.
Actually, your first question at the start was, how do I introduce myself? One of the
Yes.
things I often say is tax technologist, but I'm a tax person first. And I think that's an important distinction.
Yes.
I work with people across our firm and in my team who are technology people first. They've done, computer science at university. They are developers initially. That is their background. And then they've learned tax. And sort of you end up sort of converging on the spectrum as I'm a tax person, move in, and they're a genuine technologist or developer, and they move that way. But that's actually a really important question that we find when we're looking at candidates or thinking about the skills and that we need and the roles that those people should fill. It's where are they on the spectrum? Because we need both, but we want that full spectrum coverage. We want technologists, we want tax people, and we need that to converge. And then those skills are very, very complementary.
Yes, they are. Thank you very much. So this is a perfect place to kind of slowly end our conversation. Thank you for your time and for your honesty and for being exactly the kind of guest that reminds me why I started this podcast. To everyone listening, if this conversation resonated with you, please share it. Send it to someone on the director or partner track even. Send it to someone who just had no and doesn't know what to do next. Send it to someone who needs reminding that a full throttle journey is rarely a straight one. This episode is called From Sydney to London, Full Throttle to Big4 Partner, with my special guest, James Aleksandrowicz. Thank you so much, James, again,
Thank
for
you,
your
Izabela.
time. It's been really a
Thank you.
great pleasure. Cheers.